All right, guys, so we're starting off with question number 29 from 2.2. Equation is y equals 3/2 x squared minus 3x plus 6. So this is in standard form, so we will need to find the vertex and the axis of symmetry. Now, to be able to find these here, the first thing we need to calculate is our negative b over 2a. So our ax squared plus bx plus c will help us find a, b, and c. So a is the number in front of x squared with its sign, so that's 3/2. B is the number in front of x with its sign, so -3. And c is our number without a variable, so 6. Now for us here, now we can calculate our negative b over 2a. So -3 over 2 times 3/2. At this point here, we can do this by hand or in the calculator. If we do this by hand, -3 is 3. 2 times 3/2 actually works out to be 3, telling us that our negative b over 2a is 1. So our vertex is going to be 1 comma a value, because we'll have to plug it back in to find the other half of the vertex. Now our axis of symmetry, x is equal to our negative b over 2a, so it's just x equals 1. So we have all that there. The other part that we need to do is plug this back into the formula to find our f of negative b over 2a. You take that value and plug it back in. So that means we'll have 3/2 times 1 squared minus 3 times 1 plus 6. And again, at this point here, we can type the whole thing in. Yes, sir? So again, we can type this on the calculator. We can do it by hand. It doesn't matter which. We just need the value. So if we did this in the calculator, we can do 3/2 parentheses 1 squared minus 3 times 1 plus 6. And it would give us 9/2 or 4.5. Either one works. And that's it. Now, the only time I would prefer a fraction over a decimal is if the decimal version is not nice. If we have a repeated number, 0.3 repeated, 0.6 repeated, any of those there, if you can get into a fraction, write as a fraction, because it's not a lot nicer, easier, and more precise than our repeated decimal. Make sense? So, any other questions on 29? We get how we got there? Any other questions over the homework? Okay. What we're starting off today with is 2-3. We're going to start it today. We'll most likely finish it tomorrow. Now, one of the things I did want, I realized after I ran all the copies, this 1 over 4p, we can just call it A. This number here is A. A is equal to 1 over 4p. 1 over 4p. P is equal to 1 over 4a. A is equal to 1 over 4p. These here are nice. These are going to be helpful, and we'll see how they work here in a minute. Because what we're talking about today are different parts of a parabola. There's 4 main things we're going to be finding or getting from the equation. One of them is the axis of symmetry. Well, axis of symmetry for both of these is kind of hidden in this here. The equation, our focus directs axis of symmetry, and the vertex. We're finding 4 main things. Now there's 2 equations for us. One of them, the one that we're used to looking at, is our y equals a times x minus h squared plus k. And the vertex for it is going to be the point h comma k. Our axis of symmetry, x equals h. Our focus for this here is h plus p comma k. Make sure I'm getting, nope, sorry. But again, it is easy to get these mixed up because focus is h comma k plus p, and the directrix is y equals k minus p. Now, I'm not asking you to memorize these or have these completely memorized because, again, be looking back at them, referring back to the general forms. The other equation we have, this one is new, x equals a times y minus k squared plus h. The vertex is still the point h comma k. Our axis of symmetry has changed. It's not x equals, it's now y equals k. Our focus is going to be the point h plus p comma k. And our directrix, make sure I'm getting these right, yep, x equals h minus p. Now there is a lot up here, there's a lot that's contained with this here, but with any of this, we just need to find those certain values. And our values for this here are h, k, and p. And our a and p work together in a very nice way. A is equal to 1 over 4p, and p is equal to 1 over 4a. A is the number that we would get from the equation, the number in front of those parentheses. P is the value we're going to get from the general form. Because really, once we find this A, H, K, P, because it's either going to be P, H, K, or H, K, P. A is interchangeable. A and P. Those values, it'll just depend on which one we have, but the main ones we need depend on what we start with. And what I mean by that is if we start with the equation, I need HKP. If they give us the information, the vertex, directrix, axis of symmetry, any of that information, we need HKP. Given the equation, or A, our value we're plugging back in. Because if I'm going from the equation to the information, I need HKP. If I'm going from the information to the equation, I need HKA. What we're plugging in, what we get from there. Okay? Now let's actually look at a problem to get our information. So here, we're getting an equation. We're finding an equation. And to find an equation, we need three things. We need the value of H, K, and A. If we have H, K, and A, we will have the equation. Now, luckily, they gave us a chart, a graph. And the reason that helps us is because if we look back at the general forms, they did give us a picture, yes? Y equals, it's going to open up or down. X equals is going to open to the left or to the right. X equals open left to right. Y equals opens up down. So if we look at this here, this one here opens to the what? Almost. Because if we were continuing out, where would it go? Where would the sides of this parabola go? It's going right. Because if we look at the first one, this one here is opening up. Here it's going down. The other two going left to right. If we look at this here, this is indeed opening to the right. Where is it? Center. It's going to the right. And since this is going to the left and right, our general form, x is equal to a parentheses y minus k squared plus h. This is just the general form. Since it's opening to the right, it's going to the right, this is our information here. And from that, we have some information that we know. Vertex is HK. This is nothing about the graph. We know it opens to the right. So according to the general form, vertex is H comma K. Axis of symmetry. Symmetry is y equals K. Y equals K. Focus is the point H plus P comma K. And lastly, the directrix X is equal to H minus P. Questions on where we got any of this from, or what we've done so far? We good with this here so far? Because all we've done is taken all the general information. Because it opened to the right, left, right, we have x equals a times y minus k squared plus h. That's just the general form. That's just based off the information here. And because it is x equals, the vertex is h comma k. Axis of symmetry, y equals k. Focus, h plus p comma k. Directrix, x equals h minus p. This is all just based off the general information. This is how this formula should look, depending on a, h, k. And again, our a and p are going to connect. And we'll see that here in a second. But if we look at the other information they gave us the vertex. And our vertex is the point what? Because here we have 4, so 2, 4, 6, and we go up 2. So the vertex is the point 6, 2. Focus. So if this is 6, this is going to be 10, 2. So we good on how we found the vertex and focus? Yes? Vertex is the point h comma k, yes? For us, we found the vertex to be what? 6, 2, yes? So what do we know about h and k? For this here, h has to be what? 6. K has to be 2. Vertex, h comma k. Vertex is the point 6, 2. H has to be 6. K has to be 2. Now, P and A is going to seem weird. It's going to seem odd, but it's going to work out nicer in the end. How we get from one to the other. So we good with H and K. Let's look at the focus. K. We already know K. K is 2. Does that still line up with our focus? The only thing that's different this time is what? The x value of the focus is H plus P. What is H plus P lining up with? 10. So for us here, we can write this down below, is that our H plus P is equal to 10. Because again, we found almost everything we need. We're just needing that A, that 1 over 4P. So to get that A, we need the value of P. To get P, we need the value of A. P is 1 over 4A, A is 1 over 4P. Here. So we good with this so far? Okay. So we still want to find the value of P. And we know whatever it is added to H should give us 10, yes? What's H? So we're saying 6 plus P is 10. Solve for P. We would. Minus 6, telling us P is 4. In years past, I've done this and we plugged P in and got our formula. You get this number here, this A. A is 1 over 4P. P is 1 over 4A. So A is 1 over 4 times the P value. And what is P? Well, P is 4. And again, at this point, we can do it by hand. We can do this in a calculator. 1 over 4 times 4 is 1/16. Questions on what we've done so far? Questions on any of this here? So we good on finding A, H, K? Yes? Well, we found P to find A. The equation, x equals, well, what's the value of A? A is 1/16, parentheses, y, minus K. What is K? 2 squared, plus H is that's it. Because once we find really PHK, we have everything we need. Because we could have left it in the general form, the one I do have on that paper, 1 over 4P. It still works the same. But it does help us to go from the equation to this here, knowing that the P value is 1 over 4A, 1 over 4 times that number in front. And we'll see that when we go the other way. But again, the biggest thing I will say with 2, 3, both parts, stick with these general forms, match them up, see what A, H, K, P, these are, so that we can go from one to the other. We're ready for the next one. So again, this one is opening to the right. We're still going left to right, yes? So our equation is still x is equal to A times y minus k squared plus h. Again, stick to these general forms. Stick to this equation that we're given. Since it's open left or right, we're x equals. If it's opening up or down, it's y equals. Because when we think of up, down, left, right, so if we see where the arrows are they going to the left or to the right? Where that parabola is extending, or is it extending both up, both pointing down? Does that make sense? Questions on how we got the general form? So it also tells us the vertex is the point H, comma, K. Axis of symmetry is, and this here, y equals K. Focus is our H plus P, comma, K. Directrix, X is equal to H minus P. Now all of this here we're trying to find the equation, yes? Okay, so there's certain pieces of information it'll give us, some things it won't. Did it tell us the directions? Well, no. Just like the last one, so we don't even focus on the directions. We don't really need that general form. Did the problem tell us what the axis of symmetry is? No, I don't need it. We listed it because it's part of the general form. Because my final answer is going to be the equation x equals this here. What it did tell me was the vertex. So again, they're going by 2's. So this is -2, comma, 4. Our focus is 2, 4. We're looking at the graph to get this here. Questions on any of this so far? The x symmetry doesn't mean anything. Directrix does not mean anything for this here. But if I compare the vertex of the problem, -2, 4, to the general equation, we do get some information. We're told the value of h and k. What are the value of h and k? H is -2, k is 4. Questions on how we found h and k? We good with this so far? Yes? No? Okay. Now, let's just say we moved on from there. We didn't even try to find a. How much of this would we have? I don't have the number in front of the parentheses. Y minus k. Well, k is 4. So inside the parentheses, we have y minus 4 squared. We have that, yes? Outside's plus h, so it'd be plus -2. But we don't normally write plus -2. We can just say what? Yeah, we can just say -2, yes? How much of this equation do we have? We have pretty much the whole thing, yes? We're just missing what? The number that goes in place of a, our 1/4p, yes? So, I need to find what? P. Well, the one place that P does show up for this here is in the focus. And our point for the focus is 2, 4. K's line up. They are the same, yes? So the only thing we're really looking at is the fact, or that we're looking at the equation that H plus P is 2. When we add our H value and P value together, we get 2. Well, we already know what H is. H is -2. So we're saying -2 plus our P value gives us 2, yes? Now I just need to solve for P. And the way we can solve for P is by what? Adding 2. So P is equal to 4. Questions on this here? Now to find the value we plug in, we need 1/4 times whatever P is. That gives us a. One over 4 times our P amount. 1/4 times 4 is 1/16. Again, that's just our formula for this here. And again, it seems kind of odd. It is a little clunky for this here, but it does work very well if we're trying to find P. Because A is the number that goes in the equation. P is the number that goes in our parts of it to find the focus in directrix. Does that make sense? So here, A is 1/16. The number that goes in front of the parentheses is 1/16. So we kind of get how that is, yes? questions on this so far? So again, it seems kind of funny, but it is interesting. A, the number in front of the parentheses we have there. To find P, A is equal to 1 over 4P. If we know P, we plug it into 1 over 4P to get A. They seem the exact same, yes? And what's interesting, I find it interesting, 1 over 4 times our A value, which is 1/16, yes? Gives us 4, that's the value of P. So if I want to find P, I just plug it in 1 over 4 times that number in front of it, it'll give us P. If we want to know A, we put it as 1 over 4P. It'll give us the other. It is very strange that it works that way, but it does. That they look like the exact same thing. But, how do we feel about this so far? And again, with these here, I would not deviate too far from just these forms, finding HK, finding these values. And I am not expecting you to memorize these. I would be referencing these back to these forms when you're doing the homework, when you're solving this here. We ready for problem number 3? Now they gave us the vertex. Here in the equation, it intersected at a nice point, 1, 0. And they told us the focus is 1, 0.25. Now my question for this here, is it opening up or down, or left and right? Up. So, general form, y equals a times x minus h squared plus k. Vertex is our h comma k. Focus is our h comma k plus p. Our directrix is y equals k minus p. And our axis of symmetry. X is equal to h. Since again we're finding the equation and they only gave us the vertex and focus, really having the directrix and axis symmetry really doesn't give us any information, any additional helpful information. And again, for this here, we need to find the value of h, k, and a, our 1 over 4p, to find out what we plug in each of these 3 spots. Now it is kind of nice, they gave us the vertex, 1, 0, and they gave us the focus, 1, 0.25. So what is the value of h? H is 1, K is 0. And it's fine to have K is 0 or H is 0. We can have one or both of these be 0. That works out just fine. So now we're missing A, that 1 over 4P. And again, so here we have to look at the focus because that's the only piece of information they gave us that contains P. Now if we notice here, focus, vertex, H's do line up, yes? And the previous one, the K's matched up. That's going to be another way we can tell which one we have. If the H's are the same, the X value of the vertex and focus are the same, we have the Y equals. If the K's are the same, from vertex to focus, it's X equals. So again, it's not so much there's any specific reason. When we look at it, we're just trying to determine how do these match up? How does the equation information they give us match up to these general forms? It also tells us that k plus p is our 0.25. So our k minus p, or k plus p, is equal to 0.25. Do we know the value of k? Well, yeah, k is what? So we're saying 0 plus p is 0.25. That's actually really nice. Because what is 0 plus p? Just p. So p is 0.25. Questions on how we found p? So to find the number we're plugging in, we just have to do what? 1 over 4 times that value. One over 4 times is 1. 0.25 is 1/4. So our 4 times 0.25 is 1. 1 over 1 is 1. Yeah. So that's why it reduces to 1. Because our 4 times 0.25 is indeed 1. 1 divided by 1 is 1. So A is 1. We could write 1. Do we have to? No, if it's -1, we could write it as a negative. Because there's nothing wrong to do 1 times. We don't have to, but we can. Minus h squared. So we'd have x minus 1 squared plus k, which is 0. Or we could just write this as y equals x minus 1 squared. Because we don't have to put the plus 0 or the multiplication of 1. Questions on this here? Again, I am going slow through this because there is not a lot to it and a lot to it at the same time. Because if we get how to find these corresponding values of a, h, and k, we get the equation. Conversely, if we're going to the information, our vertex, focus, direction, axis of symmetry, we just need h, k, p. We get those, we plug it in, we have our information. We ready to look at another one with finding the equation? Four two is our vertex. 411 fourths is our focus. Would this equation be x equals or y equals? Y equals. We can say that for 2 reasons. One, we can see the graph it opens up. Another, if we look at the vertex and focus, does the x value change or the y value from vertex to focus? Does the first value or the second value change? Second. Because our x, that value, that first value, is still 4 in both, yes? First one's h, second one's h. But the second value, our y value, goes from 2 to 11 fourths, or 11 fourths to 2. Because if we look at x equals, the vertex, the first value is h for the vertex. Focus is h plus p. We're adding something to it. So if it is x equals, that first value has to change because we're adding something to it. It didn't. If we look at y equals for the vertex, it is h in the general form. And for its focus, it is also just h. It stays the same. So it is telling us that the general form for this is y equals our a times x minus h squared plus k. So again, I would be referring back to those general forms each time. I would not try to memorize this. And matching up what we have, because they gave us the vertex, and they gave us the focus. I'm not going to list the directrix or axis of symmetry because, one, we don't need it. Two, they didn't give it to us. And if we compare this vertex...
May I have your attention, please? There'll be a sophomore meeting today in Miss Kendall's room at 11:32. Thank you.
But if we look at these two here, the vertex, h comma k, 4 comma 2, focus, h comma k plus p. Again, that first value, which did stay the same, again, it's reaffirming that we have y equals. It does match up. Questions on how we fixed the y equals over the x equals. Now we can find h and k for sure, because vertex. Vertex is the point h comma k, 4 comma 2. So h is 4, k is 2. Y equals a, we haven't got it yet. We'll get it in a minute. X minus h, x minus 4, plus k plus 2. If h was negative in this case, we would have a x plus that value. Negative and negative make a plus. Last thing we need to find is p, because once we find p, we can find the number that goes in front of the parentheses. Questions on any of this so far? What's our value of k? 2. So we're saying 2 plus whatever p is gives us 11/4. So to find p, we're going to do what? Subtract 2. So we have to find out what 11/4 minus 2 is. As I've said so far, you can do this in the calculator. I'm not expecting you to do it by hand. So 11/4 minus 2 is 3/4. Is 3/4 a nice decimal number? Yeah, it's 0.75. I will take it as a decimal or as a fraction. That one's nice. Pretty good finding p. But what do we need to plug in? We need to plug in a, yes? What's a? 1 over 4p. Again, we're still right here, yes? 1 over 4 times 3/4. We get 1/3. So a is 'cause the way we used to do it before this a equals 1 over 4p, p equals 1 over 4a, we would literally type it in. Y equals 1 over 4 times our 3/4, and then simplify down. I think this is a little bit nicer. We just find those three values, plug them in. Because if we were going backwards, we were trying to find a. Because h, k are nice. Finding a, we're just going to do 1 over 4 times 1/3. 1 over 4 times 1/3 is 3/4 our value of p. Questions on this here? Well, we're going to stop there. We will get to this tomorrow, because again, I did plan for this to take more than one day.